If you are thinking about going back to work, or maybe you know someone who's on the job hunt, our next conversation could help land that dream job or project. Today we're sharing top interview questions and how to nail them. Job recruiter Carly Hazen is joining me with strategies to set you apart from the rest. I'm so excited for this.
Me too.
This is what you do. You're so good at it.
No.
You know that you're going to be in the hot seat in a job interview. So before we get into actual questions, is there a mindset that will help you prepare for that conversation?
Ooh, good question. Yes.
Yes?
Think of this. Immortal JFK words. That's not what your country can do for you. That's not what the company can do for you, but what you can do for the company.
There you go.
Think about it through their eyes. You're there to impress them. You're there to add value in a very short period. So frame all of your answers with that lens.
With that idea in mind, that goal.
You're here to solve a problem. You're here to fill a void. You're here to transfer your skill set and fit in not only from a technical standpoint, but from a cultural standpoint. So just think about how you can add value to them first and foremost.
I like that. So you're not just selling yourself, you're selling yourself as the solution.
Yeah, and you know, there's a cadence to interviews as it, goes through the process and gets to negotiations. It can become more about you, so don't think that you're not going to be heard and valued. It can be about you, but on the onset, the first interview, it's all about them.
Okay. All right, we've got a list of the top interview questions that you have provided.
Yep.
We asked our friends from across the hall in the KSL newsroom to answer a few of them, so we're going to listen along as we progress.
Great.
You're going to size up their responses.
Great, I love it.
At the top of your question list, that introduction question, tell me about yourself. This is a pretty commonplace one, right?
Oh my gosh, and it's such a grenade in terms of how some people handle this question because it can be very jarring. It's less of a question and more of an invitation.
Okay.
And the way to think about this is, for one, this is an executive interviewing you. They don't have a lot of time. Do not start with,
I was born and
raised. But it's really great to talk about maybe, your place of origin. I originally come from. That's a great personal thing that doesn't reveal too much about you personally. So I'm originally from here. I moved to Salt Lake City for college. I love what I do. And then immediately portray that last sentence into something that would add value to them.
Okay.
I fell into a field of graphic design. I fell into a field of marketing, and I found it really, really parlays beautifully with my strengths, and I found my calling, right? So
that's
immediately
lovely.
You're starting into the interview path. You've talked about yourself personally, but boom, I'm here to interview.
Okay, we threw this question out to KSL anchor and reporter Ashley Moser. Let's listen how she did.
My name is Ashley Moser, and I am from the island of Oahu in Hawaii, and I am so lucky to be from such a diverse place. I think that makes me understand life just a little bit differently. When I interact with people, I can relate to them because most people have been to Hawaii. So I think that's something that kind of it makes me unique or really makes me personable because I can talk to you about just about anything.
I liked that answer. How about that?
Like test case scenario.
Hired.
Beautiful. Hired. Yeah. No, she's fantastic. She was succinct. She was straight to the point. She talked about something interesting, a fact that makes her unique. It's a really beautiful time to stand out amongst the other candidates and give them something to remember you by. It's interesting where she's from. And then did you see how beautifully she parlayed it into a strength that she offers? It helps me connect with people, right? It's something unique about me that maybe makes me communicate and broach topics and create relationships. So well done.
Nice job, Ashley. All right, this next question almost always gets asked. What's your greatest strength?
I know, and it's a hard one because
you don't like this question. I saw your face.
It's hard because it's not the time to be humble, and that's the hardest part about it, right? People really need to get very comfortable saying to themselves, "Okay, this is a time where I really need to showcase my strengths." Own your strengths. So a way to handle this, again, you want to be very succinct, but you want to give very clear examples. So a great example is my work ethic, right? It's not just good enough for me to meet deadlines, but I'm a very hard worker, and I try to meet my deadlines a good week or two in advance.
Okay.
Right, and you can even mention something in the past. This was rewarded through a bonus, right? You're teaching them how you want to be treated, and in the past, my efforts have led to a reward. Great time to mention something where you've been rewarded by a previous supervisor, right? My writing skills. Not only do I feel like they're a strength of mine inherently, but I also feel like I can shape my writing style to the target audience I'm speaking with, right?
Okay.
My sales skills. I have 10 years of sales background, and the last 2 quarters I've exceeded my goal by 10%. Give something quantifiable. So you want to give a strength, and then you want to give an example of that strength in a real-time scenario where they can go, oh, she's not just feeding me strengths. This is actually something that she incorporates and adds value to her current position, and it's exactly what we need here.
She's got proof of what she's saying.
Yeah.
What about the flip question, Carly? What's your greatest weakness?
Even uglier, right? This is a question to test your self-awareness. That's what it is, right? They want to see if you can be very self-aware. Everyone has a weakness. So address it head on, and then be the type of person who can actually give an example of a strength that you maybe turn that into, right? Or come to the table with a solution. So many people can focus on the negative in this question. It's jarring. How did you handle a difficult situation, or what's a weakness? And they just immediately take that as permission to have a confessional about something they're not great at, right? Hit that, address it in no more than a sentence or two, and then turn it into a strength. Right?
I was laughing with Carly earlier. I had a lot of jobs when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I did a lot of interviewing, and looking back, I don't think I was all that bad at it, but in my head, I thought that I made up the answer. My greatest strength is my greatest weakness. I thought that was like self-created. That
brilliant.
Was a Brooke Walker original.
Yeah, and I'm going to claim it as such. When I hear that, I'm going to be like, that's Brooke Walker.
Is that a cheesy cop-out?
No, I don't think it is, but I think that if you really want to get honest, then what you can do is say, you know, my greatest weakness is delegation. Like, give something very real and something that a lot of people probably struggle with, but then how you systematically and continue to try to work through that, right? If you have the belief that you can do everything on your own, show that, you know, it takes a little humility to ask for help, and it's something you work on.
You say be prepared for the problem-solving scenario that asks you how you overcame a difficult situation. You can kind of parlay into that with the weakness question.
Yes.
But if they specifically say, how did you handle a difficult situation?
Yes.
What's the golden answer?
You know, try to think of a difficult situation. Try to be prepared with this beforehand. That's why we're having this conversation, because the more you can give this some real thought and give an honest answer, they're going to be able to see your sincerity. And it's less about what you say and how you say it. If you're sincere, if you're genuine, if you're always looking for ways to self-improve. So yes, here's an example, but here's what it led to, and here's how we were, you know, better because of it.
Again, you're digging yourself up and out. We asked this question of KSL Shara Park, who is fabulous on her feet. She took a stab at it. Let's listen.
The situation for me was perhaps a few years ago when our newsroom merged, and I was given the task of being a full-time radio reporter on top of being a full-time TV reporter. And it was stretching my hours very long into the day, where I was working 10, 11 hours. And that was starting to be very draining on me. And the way I decided to approach that situation was sitting down with my boss, my new boss from the radio side, as well as my boss from the TV side, and explaining what my workday was looking like. I think that open communication really helped, and things got much better once we were all on the same page.
Look how honest she was with that, a true situation.
And genuine, right? You can tell. And it's really off-putting for people to come into an interview and be a professional interviewer. Show some honesty, right? And she was so, you know, perfect in terms of saying, you know, this is something I was struggling with. So I brought together both sides. I sought better integration and better balance, and we had an open communication forum. That's so fantastic, because already they're thinking, you know, she's not afraid to address hard issues.
She's a communicator.
She's a communicator. She's someone who can come to the table with a solution. She likely came to the table and said, here's what would work best for me. I'd love to hear what works best for you in terms of allocating my hours. So yeah, she came to the table with a real solution prior to the conversation, and she wasn't afraid to deal with it head on.
Good job. Shara, let's go to this next one. What are your goals for the future? I don't like this question. I think it's tough, because obviously my goal is to get this job.
Yeah, right.
Can you say that?
My goal is for you to hire me.
This is my goal.
As soon as possible. No, that's a great goal, and I think that you can bring some wit into an interview, you know, and say, well, my goal is to be hired at an organization such as yours, where you really value your employees, or I hear that you really, you know, hire a lot of people with a true passion for what you do. That's fantastic. I think that what you need to do in this question is think very much short-term goal, not long-term goal. And the reason for that, and this is something I've learned through watching people interview, when you shoot for the moon and get very aspirational, that company may say, oh, that's not really something you can do here anytime soon.
That's not in your trajectory.
And all the time I have clients call and say, you know what, we would have loved to hire this candidate, but eventually they want to be a CFO, and our CFO's not retiring anytime soon. That's not available to them in the near term. And even if the individual's like, that doesn't matter. I mean, I was talking 20 years out. It planted the seed of doubt. You don't want to give them any reason. So think short term and answer that question in a way that you know you can get that goal in that company. My goal is to grow in this amount, and I'd love to do that here.
Okay, this next question we threw out to KSL anchor Andrew Wittenberg. You say it's a common one. Why should we hire you? Let's hear what Andrew had to say.
Because you won't find a single person, you won't look at a single resume, interview a single candidate who will work harder for you than I will to make sure that you are happy with the job that I'm doing.
Oh, I liked his confidence there.
And I believed it.
Absolutely.
Looked you right in the eye and said, you're not going to find anybody to work harder. I think that's beautiful.
And he spoke to his work ethic?
He spoke to his work ethic, and a great, I mean, he probably did because it cut off a little bit, but a great way to follow that up is to not just make a really bold statement like that, follow it up with a real solution, right? In my current position, I find that I'm usually the first one on the set. I'm usually the last one to lead. I don't only like to help with my segments, I love to collaborate and contribute with my colleagues. I think if you ask them, they would tell you I'm a self-starter,
So a running theme in all of these answers as you're coaching coaching us up here, this is so helpful, this is so good,
Awesome.
is to really come to the table with some prepared and thoughtful examples.
That's exactly right.
Proof in the picture.
And that's the thing, is people say, how do I prep for an interview? I don't know what they're going to ask. Don't think about so much what questions. Think about as many scenarios as you can that you'd like to bring to an interview. Your strengths, your highlights of your career, what positive attributes your colleagues and supervisors would talk about. Be ready with a lot of those scenarios, and then you'll be able to find, once you get into a relaxed cadence, the perfect time to integrate those.
If you're jumping jobs, right, you're currently employed, yet you're seeking another opportunity, and they ask you, why do you want to leave your current job? What do you say to that?
Right. Just remember that the way to answer this question is to stay positive. It's not an opportunity to talk negatively. Obviously, in your head, you're like, well, I hate it. I hate my job, or I wouldn't be here, right? Or it's too long to commute, or they don't pay well enough. There's several reasons that can be personal. Think about ways that it can be a growth experience. I'm looking to just gain additional experience. It's a small company. I feel like I've kind of hit my ceiling, right? So think about some positive ways that you can parlay that. They're not looking to get the dirt. They're really not. They're not looking to have an awkward conversation. They're looking to have an honest answer, and they want to make sure that how you answer that is something they can provide for you, right? So think about that ahead of time and think, do I know for sure this company can handle this answer? Here's how I know this is a proven fact. Then give your answer.
I loved this. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you got
Carly
it.
is the perfect girlfriend/coach to have in your corner.
That's
so we
nice.
love that we got to have you on our
Thank
team
you.
today.
I hope it
Thank
helps.
you.